The story of Samir Nasri is not one of quiet decline, but of a man who seemed destined for immortality and instead chose chaos, controversy, and self-sabotage at every turn. If ever there was a player who embodied the phrase toxic love affair with football, it was him. A boy who grew up idolized as the second coming of Zidane, praised for his technical brilliance, his vision, his swagger with the ball at his feet, yet constantly at war with the sport that gave him everything. At times, he looked like a footballing genius on par with Messi, capable of moments that left even hardened defenders in awe. At other times, he looked like a man counting the days until he could finally walk away, exhausted by the politics, the relationships, and the sheer burden of expectation. From the very start, Nasri's life felt like destiny. Born in Marseille of Algerian descent like Zidane, raised in the same part of town, he was carrying the weight of prophecy before he could even tie his boots properly. By 9 years old, Marseille scouts were calling him the new Zidane, and AC Milan coaches were begging for him to stay in Italy after one youth tournament. He didn't, of course. Instead, he returned to France, where by 16 he was already linking up with Karim, Benzema and Hatem Ben Arfa as part of the Golden 87 generation, the kids who dismantled Spain and Portugal at the under-17 Euros. Nasri scored the winner in the final against a Spanish side featuring Gerard Piqué and Cesc Fabregas. In that moment, the whole of France, disillusioned with their senior team, turned their eyes to these young saviors. At Marseille, his rise was electric. Through 6 different managers in 3 years, Nasri only grew stronger, earning the nickname the Little Prince of the Velodrome. By his 3rd season, he was not only winning Marseille's Player of the Year ahead of Ribéry and Djibril Cissé, but also claiming the league's Young Player of the Year award, handed to him by Zidane himself. Imagine that scene. The legend passing the torch to the supposed heir. The boy everyone believed would carry French football into its next golden age. But something happened to Nasri that would set the tone for the rest of his career. A sudden illness, viral meningitis, kept him bedridden for nearly 2 weeks, hooked up to a morphine drip, and when he recovered, he wasn't the same. He later admitted that the experience made him see through the sport, through the superficiality of football's relationships. At just 20 years old, resentment began to creep in. From then on, every achievement came with a shadow of bitterness. Yes, he dragged Marseille into the Champions League. Yes, he renewed his contract to earn the club more money in his eventual transfer. But behind the curtain, Nasri was beginning to sour on the very game that had lifted him up. His move to Arsenal should have been the next great chapter. Arsène Wenger swooped in with $16 million, and Nasri scored 4 minutes into his debut. He scored twice against Manchester United. He was the shiny new jewel in Arsenal's crown. Wenger promised him he had the talent to be the best in the world. But from the moment he arrived, he was clashing with William Gallas, Arsenal's captain, who later blasted him in a book, calling him an insolent brat. Rumors spread that Nasri had no respect for the hierarchy, and when Gallas lost the captaincy, Nasri refused to even shake his hand. Fans adored him, but whispers of his arrogance were growing louder. On the pitch, his inconsistency drove people mad. One moment he was a magician, scoring wonder goals in the Champions League. The next, he disappeared entirely, criticized for being out of shape and lacking commitment. His relationship with France's national team was no better. When Raymond Domenech left him out of the World Cup squad, Nasri gleefully mocked the team's disastrous tournament, calling them the laughing stock of world football and sarcastically asking if he was still the problem. Somehow this defiance fueled him. The next season at Arsenal was his best ever. Player of the Month awards, goals against Tottenham and Fulham that fans still remember, even the French Footballer of the Year award. But when Arsenal delayed renegotiating his contract, Nasri took it as disrespect. His form collapsed, and by the summer, he was forcing a move. He chose Manchester City, claiming it was about winning titles, though Wenger said plainly it was about money. Arsenal fans branded him a traitor, a mercenary, a cancer. Nasri embraced the role, taunting them with Premier League medals, relishing his villain status. And yet, even at City, his contradictions never stopped. He scored crucial goals, assisted in title races, and won trophies. He also fell out with managers, clashed with teammates, and managed to get himself banned from the French national team after insulting journalists at Euro 2012. At just 25, he was already talking about international retirement. With City, his highs were undeniable. League titles, cup wins, iconic goals. But the valleys were just as deep. He missed games through endless injuries, was accused of being overweight, and constantly frustrated managers like Mancini and later Guardiola. When Deschamps left him out of the World Cup squad, Nasri's girlfriend went on a tirade against the manager, and Nasri himself announced his retirement from international football. In truth, it was a moment when his love for the sport finally seemed to collapse. The end was humiliating. He went to Sevilla, but a scandal involving a controversial vitamin drip in Los Angeles led to a doping ban. His girlfriend, furious over a suspected affair, hacked his Twitter account and posted embarrassing messages for the world to see. Sevilla wanted nothing to do with him. Antalyaspor gave him a chance, but he lasted just 8 games before the ban hit. West Ham gave him another, but he couldn't meet fitness demands. Anderlecht took him in under Vincent Kompany, but even there, the sporting director admitted signing him was a mistake. By then, Nasri was more meme than maestro, mocked for his weight, remembered more for scandals than skills, and then came the pandemic, which ended his career quietly, almost pathetically. A man once hailed as Zidane's successor, once described as a player you had to squint at to see Messi, faded into retirement without ceremony. And if anyone doubted he had quit on football long before that, all they needed to do was look at him a month after announcing his retirement, already out of shape, already seemingly relieved to finally be free of the game he had battled for so long. Samir Nasri's career is one of football's great contradictions. He was brilliant but bitter, gifted but resentful, celebrated but despised. He won more than most players could dream of, but he left fans and managers alike asking, what if? What if he had loved the game as much as it loved him? What if he had channeled his fire into consistency rather than conflict? We'll never know. What we do know is that his story remains unforgettable. A cautionary tale about talent, ego, and the toxic love-hate relationship that defined him.